Let's take a look at the Fuso starting grid. Whincup with Team Vodafone's third consecutive pole here at Barbagallo Raceway. He and Will Davison to square off from the front row. Lowndes and Johnson, very strong the last time we visited here back in November 2009. They're on row 2. And then Rick Kelly, a winner in Hamilton. Carl Reindler, his best ever V8 supercar qualifying performance. His previous best was 19th in Sydney last year. He's taken a big step up. James Courtney, Alex Davison next. That's Alex's best ever qualifying here in Barbagallo. And how about this? James Moffat, the rookie, in the top 10. That's a personal best as well. Jason Bright, second fastest in practice yesterday. He rounds out the top 10. And then some championship contenders here. Mark Winterbottom had a shocker in Hamilton, a retirement from the Sunday race. He starts from 12th. Michael Caruso, a change of cars for him this weekend. Paul Dunbrell, the Bottle Ford, is next. And then we find Shane Van Gisbergen, a winner a fortnight ago. He's buried in the middle of the pack for this 7th race of the championship.
1 minute signal.
Steve Owen, 17th in the VIP Pet Foods car. Jonathan Webb, the mother Ford, alongside him. Tim Slade and Russell Ingall, some former teammates, to square off from row 10 of the grid. And then we find Jason Bargwana and Greg Murphy, a couple of former teammates. A new look too for the Pepsi Max crew, Commodore from Kelly Racing this weekend. And Garth Tander starts 23rd. He hasn't been this far back on a grid since Abu Dhabi last year. Dean Fiore, the third of the Western Australian drivers in the Triple F Falcon. Then it's Todd Kelly and Warren Luff. And rounding out the field, Fabian Coulthard, his lowest qualifying effort in nearly 4 years. The Bundaberg Commodore starts down the back alongside Tony D'Alberto. And to give you an idea of how close this field is, there's just 1 second covering the top 24 cars.
It's amazing, isn't it? And we've seen some classic races here over the years. But so far this year, because we've had such diverse winners, 5 different winners from 6 races, one of the highlights of the year so far was that great battle between Will Davison and Jamie Whincup at Clipsal. They're on the front row of the grid right now, and the early laps will be very telling here because track position is very important.
Guys, just bumped into Olympic pole vaulter Steve Hooker down on the grid, and I said to Steve, what brings you to the races today? 1, he's a race fan, but 2, he's been working very closely with his good mate from Perth, Carl Reindler. They've been working on things like sprint running, just getting those twitch fibres working, and what do you know, all of a sudden Carl Reindler's starting to produce better results. So this working with Steve Hooker could be going in the right direction.
So you reckon he's pole vaulted up the grid? Or?
Oh, nice. Happy to be
Now, we're on board with Paul Dunbrell. Had a yak to him in between qualifying in this race, and just as he turns left going up the hill there, puts a bit of pressure on his right hip. That's the area that he's been operated on a couple of Tuesdays back in and around the Easter break. He took the opportunity. He wasn't expecting to do it until later in the year, but he had the tendon removed from it was attached to his hip, and done a little bit of surgery there to get himself back in shape. It's going to hurt his training regime, but he is feeling it through that left-hander is the bottom line to the point.
Now, I reckon the big ticket item that's going to obviously emerge here in about 50 seconds will be the start of this race, and pole position is on the inside of the track, which is off the racing line. But I just climbed the wall. I was having a bit of a look at that track surface I was talking about, and because it doesn't get used as much on the inside, I'd actually argue there's probably a bit more grip over there, even though there's a bit more rubbish on the track because it's offline. But Will Davo's just done the right thing. He's dropped a dirty great burnout and laid as much rubber as he possibly can off that grid position. Smart move.
That's exactly what you do, Larko. As many times as you can possibly lay the rubber there, you've got to park the car perfectly black on those black lines and ensure that the initial jump on board there with James Courtney, the initial jump is as good as you can possibly make it. This will be a very interesting run to the first corner. The outside is normally better. The inside is good because it's close to the first corner.
Yeah, and I think all day long you'd pray to be on the inside here, because even if you don't get the best initial jump, there's nothing like having a tonne and a half on your side when you get down there to the right-hand side of turn 1 and go, good luck anyone who wants to go around the outside.
Remember, if you're out and about, you can keep in touch with all the V8 supercar action on your Telstra XG mobile. Catch our coverage on Big Pond Sport. It is about to set off here at Barbagallo. It's great to be back in the West. Full field, 28 cars ready to go. Green flag at the back means that we can start the sequence. Whincup to the left, Davison to the right. They had a storming fight at the Clipsal 500. Now they do it in the West. The Thunder returns to the West, and it's a great jump from Will Davison, but he's on the wrong side. Dunbrell's in the grass. The Ford man can't quite get across, but he needs to cover Stephen Johnson. There's a bit of drama back in the pack. That was Todd Kelly on the grass, but it's Whincup who leads through one. Then Davison, Johnson, Lowndes, Rick Kelly, and Alex Davison going side by side with Reindler.
That was a classic case of Will actually got a very good initial jump, but the fact that Jamie was on the inside was what counted when they got to turn one.
It was a really good start. From Will Davison, his initial jump was absolutely perfect, but as Neil said, he couldn't get quite far enough along to move the car across. And what a great first lap from Whincup. Have a look at the gap that he's got. 4 or 5 car lengths. Steve Johnson, good start. Craig Lowndes in 4th. Rick Kelly and a dive down the inside for Alex Davison on Reindler. There's Winterbottom, he's made ground. Courtney's dropped some spots.
It's an astonishing margin for Jamie to have 1 second on the field at the end of lap number 1. That clean air is going to be so valuable for him in these early laps because he can dictate his fuel burn, can manage his tyres, he can gently drive this car without being hustled out of his rhythm, and that's a very important aspect on this track. Courtney through the left-hander, climbing the hill. It's a great corner and the big direction change over the top. It was turn 4, we're on board with him. He's been hurt a little at the start.
And there's a few that have dropped right back. Moffat's back there in 24th spot. Remember, started 9th. Replay of the start on the Zinger replay. Let's look back here. Slow away. There he is on the inside of the road. And look for Ingle. Oh, that could have been bad.
What a great bit of driving.
Wow.
Great bit of driving from Ingle there to miss that. Oh, absolutely fantastic. And there's Todd Kelly, 4 wheels in the grass. So all that come. Have a look at the back. This rear shot is fantastic with the way that they've been able to avoid what would have been a very big incident.
So that all as a result of James Moffat, who qualified beautifully, has had a chug-a-lug start, got away very poorly, has dropped right to the back of the pack, and then how everybody managed to miss. It's pretty remarkable. So 57.8, fastest lap of the race so far. Jamie Whincup put another 3/10 on the field on lap 2. He's got near enough to 1.3 seconds.
That's the outside curve at turn 5. Neil said the change of direction at the top of the hill. And that's the basin, that's sort of the bowl, the deepest area of the track. And up and over the rise and down this roller coaster ride at 255 kilometres an hour into the very heavy braking area for the final corner. Whincup runs a little wide. Davison, Johnson. Johnson looks strong. Car looks very good. Craig Lowndes right behind him with Rick Kelly behind Lowndes. That's your top 5.
And that shot gives you a really good idea of the way the road climbs at the exit of 1 and through the S's and drops into 4. But Whincup, the margin's 1.4 seconds. There it is. Davison, Johnson, Lowndes, Rick Kelly, Reindler, Davison. Mark Winterbottom's made a little bit of ground. From 12th, he's up to 8th. Courtney 9th. Then it's Bright, Caruso, Holdsworth, Reynolds, Van Gisbergen and Slade, and Tanner's on the move. He's made up 6 spots. He's got to 17th.
Yeah, good job, Garth Tanner. And he was probably, along with Russell Ingle, the best at avoiding that start line drama with James Moffat. The other guy that's driving the car very well, and we've already said today about Lowndes' record here. You watch some of the lines that he uses and the way he takes the load off the tyre. And I'll show you in a little while down into the basin as to the sort of line at turn 6 that he uses to achieve the best tyre life. So a very congested field, and these early laps are ultra important in terms of track position and not using the tyre too hard. Neil said before that when you've got the lead and you're by yourself, you can manage the way you use the tyre. And you've got to not get involved in a dice, because if you get involved in a dice, this is Steve Johnson right behind Will Davison. If you get involved in a dice and you use the tyre too early, then that knocks you around. If you have a look behind, you'll see Lowndes with a narrow line. And that's what he's always done. He's always made the entry very, very fast, and he sacrifices the exit and the tyre load.
And he actually crosses the white line down there with the right-hand side of the car. He actually literally steps over it to the tune of about 0.5 metre to 1 metre. So he narrows it up, but he rushes at the corner with more turn-in speed. You'd have to say, when you look at his stats here, it's worked. Absolutely. Because he's been very successful. 13 race wins over the years. And I made the point earlier in the telecast, his performance in the final race in 2009 on the soft tyre to get as far as he did on those tyres with the pace that he had was really fantastic. Stephen Johnson fulfilling the promise that was shown here at the back end of 09 when we were here in November that year. They've obviously got a good setup, and he's got a good personal grasp of what to do here to get performance out of the car. 1.6 seconds is the margin between Whincup and Davison as we go on board with Mark Winterbottom. Frosty's down in 8th at the moment. He's looking at the back of Alex Davison. This is that shot that we were just with is so telling later in the race, because when we look out through the windscreen and we listen to the tone of the car, pay attention later in the day to just how gently they've got to ease the car out of turn 6 in the bowl, 3rd gear, so that they don't wind the car sideways on the left rear tyre, which Mark made mention of before. Early in the race, you can punch into the tyre pretty hard, lean on it pretty aggressively, certainly in the first couple of laps. By now, they'll be feeling a difference in its behaviour. But as you get towards the end of the tyre life, in the cycle of laps that you're going to do around here, boy, you've got to take it gently. There's a problem here for, who's that, Carl Reindler?
He ran wide on the entry.
Very wide. Lost a lot of ground there because he had to come right out of the throttle in the dirt.
Watch the different lines down here. See how even Mark Winterbottom takes a narrower Craig Lowndes style entry, and then he tries to square the end of the corner off, so he comes out of the corner with hardly any steering lock on. It's the most important corner on the track in terms of left-hand rear tyre life.
Will Davison's reporting his car, literally just as I raised the topic, is trending heavily now towards oversteer straight away. So we're on lap 8. There's an anti-roll bar adjustment in Mark Winterbottom's car to try and compensate for that.
But it's Whincup who has the advantage. He leads the way. Tight pack. Race 7 of the championship, still a long, long way ahead. Mark Winterbottom hunting down Alex Davison. Courtney and Bright round out the top 10. The Trading Post Perth Challenge continues when we come back. How's this for a roller coaster? The run to turn 7 at Barbagallo Raceway in Perth. It's race 7 of the championship, the Trading Post Perth Challenge. Jamie Whincup still leads the way. Will Davison just nibbling a little bit of the margin last time around. Stephen Johnson and Craig Lowndes 3rd and 4th.
Interesting that as we went to the break, I made mention of the fact that Will Davison reporting the rear of the car sliding. That's an oversteer condition. His teammate, and we were on board with him before, Mark Winterbottom, he just reported in that his car has trended the other way. He's actually got a little bit too much understeer, which he's now trimming for. But he reported, and this is pretty significant for the way your day will pan out, he goes, the tyres have come up beautifully. So they've obviously got their cold starting pressures just right in those tyres, and that's all part of trying to unravel the trick of getting a result at this racetrack.
And you give your right arm for some understeer at this place, wouldn't you? Because in terms of how you make the tyres live over the course of this distance, 50 laps, you don't want the left-hand rear tyre to be tortured. It looks like Alex Davison's actually held Mark Winterbottom up a little bit because Courtney's ranged up onto the back of Mark Winterbottom also. So this is this healthy battle. We know Will Davison struggling with rear tyre grip. Steve Johnson looks like he's driving the car very straight. Craig Lowndes with a great record here. And Rick Kelly just in behind this pack of 3. Lowndes did a great job the last time we were here. As we've already said, he's a unique style, and as over the course of the years has proved to work very well at this circuit. Now have a look at the way he does this. He runs it narrow, almost a full car width more narrow on the entry than Steve Johnson, and then he just keeps the mid-corner speed up and then is late on the throttle to ensure he doesn't slide it too much. And they achieve their speed differently, we've said often, between the cars, but also the way the drivers, in terms of technique, approach this circuit.
Stephen Johnson in the Jim Beam car in the middle of the sandwich there. The reason for the movement, by the way, is to ingest a nice healthy dose of cool air and do a couple of other things. One, just to be moving around in the mirrors of Will Davison, and equally, it's a blocking move for Craig Lowndes. So you know, he's done a lot of mileage now, Stephen. He's done a lot of V8 supercar racing. He knows that a few degrees of water temperature are important to manage, and he knows that you've got to just try and do things to keep the bloke in front, occasionally looking at the mirror going, why did I see a colour movement? What's going on behind me? And he'll increasingly play that game, and at the same time get his right elbow in particular up high in case Lowndes decides to have a crack.
You couldn't make that more graphic there in terms of the difference in the styles and the way that the two guys go about it so differently. Your point about Steve Johnson, I've been very impressed with the way he started this season. James Courtney not being there, Steve's had to take the leadership role in that team, and I think he's actually stepped up. I think he's driving the car really well, and arguably, at the moment, based on his experience, he's really in contention here today.
Well, he was very racy at Abu Dhabi. He was right up there in Hamilton and qualified up the front. He raced up the front. The luck kind of hasn't bounced his way, but Winterbottom's given Alex Davison a bit of a whack. That's for 7th. And they're just starting to bank up behind them too. Courtney's there, Bright's there, and the two Fujitsu boys, Michael Caruso and Lee Holdsworth.
Now, this is beginning to brew. We're on board with James Courtney at turn 4. So Winterbottom, it was a bit weird because it's quite solid contact right in the middle of turn 1. Upset Alex's car. Didn't look as though they were going into the corner that was going to be the case, that there was going to be contact. We've got Jason Bright also very close to the back of James Courtney in this little group as well. So you just get the feeling that any tick of the clock there'll be a move in all this. They're bringing Tander in this lap, Toll Holden Racing Team car. They're going to try and take him out of the sequence to keep the forward march. Ooh, that was pretty wild. Jason Bright's departure at turn 7. Remember, we've seen trouble here on the pit lane entry over the years, plenty of it.
Certainly have.
We've seen cars arrive backwards and hit the tyre bundles on the way in, but Jason Bright the first to really peel in. Tander in as well.
Go.
Rear tyres for Team BOC.
It's probably not a bad move for them.
Fuel position 2, please. Fuel position 2.
And left side tyres for Tander.
Okay, mate, so you've got left-hand side tyres. Be careful of the braking. Be careful of the braking for a lap or 2. And push on, push on. Position 3, position 3. Here a little bit of rear bar.
So Alistair McVeigh just saying there, be careful of the braking because you've got new tyres down one side and warm tyres down the other, so the car doesn't track true, it doesn't brake stably in the way that the first couple of laps will take place. And here we go. Here's Steve Johnson down the inside. Oh, sorry, Mark Winterbottom down the inside of Alex Davison. Oh, close. Davison decides to head for the pit. No, he hasn't. I thought he was coming into the pit. So it's still on.
Tim Slade is pitting.
He got away with that.
Yeah.
And Lowndes is in too.
This was discussed in the driver's briefing this morning, that once you cross the white line anywhere on the track, typically the onus is on the driver that departed the track to rejoin safely.
So remember that Lowndes has come in. He was behind Will Davison and Steve Johnson. They're the reference points for when they pit.
These are interesting strategies because I would put 4 tyres on in this race. I would run to a point where you put enough fuel in the car to put 4 tyres, because the front tyres still work hard here, Neil, don't they? I mean, it's not like a place that the front tyre's cruising. So I'm really, in terms of getting cars clear that are caught in the traffic, I understand getting out of the traffic and getting track position. That's fine as Will Davison comes in, and so does Rick Kelly.
Now watch for Johnson to be unleashed here.
I got you there, man. Come in, we're going to tweak the rolls and give you the size.
I don't think we've actually seen 4 go on at any point at this point.
And I suppose really in terms of strategy, the only thing about this is that it protects you from a safety car intervention. It's an early safety car intervention, risk management.
You'll be clear on exit. Drop as soon as you go. Go.
So everyone seems to be going down the path of rear tyres. Holdsworth rejoins.
And Scafie, to add to your comments there, why that is smart to protect yourself from safety cars, because there is a high incidence of safety car here because of the sand traps. But I've got to say, I am a bit with you, mate. I'm a bit odd. It's a bit odd to be putting 2 tyres. I mean, with nearly 40 odd laps to go, I'd put an asterisk next to those guys who've been in and put 2 tyres on and see how they're wobbling in 35 from now.
Exactly. So pick up on the vision of Mark Winterbottom and Alex Davison having a bumping duel at the final corner, and then he ran around the outside of the curb and was able to maintain his position.
It's good work on the part of both of them for there not to be contact. I didn't get to finish the comment about this earlier, but normally when you're rejoining from off the racetrack, you've got to fan the throttle, feed back in nicely, sometimes even have to lift the throttle and cede the position to the guy behind. This morning in the driver's briefing it was explained that you don't have to do that. You can basically stay into the throttle. And the following driver has got to actually be the one that gives you a little bit of space.
Close merge here. Caruso will have to yield, slot in behind Courtney. So there's Jason Bright. He's moved up past a few of them by pitting a few laps earlier. Well, this is tight. The re-entry here, Scafey's so close, and that's teammates.
It certainly is, Aaron. When you come from the left-hand side of that curb, and if you've got cars already on the road, you've got to determine how much grip you've got as you leave the pit. And then as the guy on the road, you've got to make sure that you can get in and around the first corner without making contact. That was very close between the GRM cars of Holdsworth and Caruso. So Whincup and Johnson are the guys that are pioneering as the front guys that haven't come in yet. As I said, 4 tyres will definitely give you a yield later in the race, as we see Slade do a really nice crisscross manoeuvre. He got it down wide, turned it back on itself and down the inside of Tander. He's got to still stay there, you've got to hold your ground, and he'll hold Garth out. So a good move. This may not be over because Garth will have another dive at the first corner, but a very good crisscross move, and Tander back down the inside. Very close. Oh, he gave him a little rub on the way out of turn 1, but a good job there by Tim Slade.
So the real interest for me in this is what the lap speed looks like for our leaders. Now, Whincup had a bad lap that time. It was a 59.3, but for Stephen Johnson, it was an 8.6.
Yeah, Whincup was bottled behind Warren Luff. He was trying to put the Gulf Western Oil Commodore down a lap, so that's where the time was. So not quite representative of their pace.
No, understand, but the point I'm making here is that we need to watch very carefully how their continued pace looks on these tyres and compare them with the guys that have grabbed 2 tyres and see how they're tracking. And that's what they'll be looking at strategically in the bunker down at Team Vodafone and at Jim Beam Racing, as to whether they can do what Mark was talking about, Mark Larkham,
obviously, eyes forward, use those tyres, mate.
earlier, and that is, you know, splitting the race into 2 parts and then doing 4 tyres potentially.
And you can hear Mark Dutton then say, use those tyres, mate. So they will definitely be running to an area of the race where you can put 4 tyres on in the time frame that you need to fill the car to finish this race.
And his pace normalised, Jamie's, on this lap back to a 58.5, so he was 2/10 stronger than Steve Johnson once he was clear of the traffic that you described.
Yeah, and Tander did a 59.1, so maybe even at this point still not losing any ground in terms of the way that Whincup's been able to make these tyres live. He's very, very good at this. He's been the benchmark in the category, and the way that he flows the car and keeps the load off the car means that he can make the tyre live. He'll be in for 4 tyres. This shapes up as a really good race.
We've got you covered at Barbagallo Raceway, the mega wall. With all the action on track, it is Jamie Whincup who leads the way. The margin, 3.5 seconds back to Stephen Johnson. We're riding in car on the bottom right of screen with Mark Winterbottom, who's back in 19th, and in one heck of a fight here with Jason Bright up in front.
13 cars yet to stop. First car in the queue that has stopped is Will Davison, and Will is currently 35 seconds off the lead of the race. A bit of other information that's of interest is that Stephen Johnson has just said to his guys, for the incoming tyre set on my car, can I have £0.5 pound less in the rear tyres? So you might think at home, £0.5 pound, you're kidding. Can you really feel that? My goodness, you can. It makes an enormous difference to the behaviour of these cars.
£0.5 pound at the start of this race. They will have started with something like 18 or 19 pounds in these tyres as cold pressures. As the tyre slips, they get wheel spin, the temperature of the tyre will come up to 70 or 80 degrees, and the pressure will build to have in excess of 30 pounds in the tyre. So they'll finish with 32 or 33 pounds. Steve Johnson just coming in now. So the first one to blink between Whincup and Johnson is Johnson.
Which moves Van Gisbergen up to second, and Paul Forgy just told him we're going to press on this tyre set.
20 laps completed, rears only. You're doing a great job, keep at it.
Greg Wheeler, engineer for Stephen Johnson. That very South African accent that does stand out. Now, Will Davison's going to sneak out in front. Can Lowndes do it too? Yes, he does. So that's a gain for Lowndes of a spot.
But Stephen's now got fresh rear tyres and he'll hurt for a lap, but then he'll come back at Craig, and that'll be a real vigorous battle to watch in about 2 or 3 minutes from now. Because while those rear tyres, at the moment, it'll be understeering like a dog. And when those rear tyres...
That's a technical term.
Yeah, when it all heats up and balances back out for a while, just for a little brief moment, a little window in time, Stevie will have a car that's actually a bit of a gem, and he'll pull out the 6-shooter and have a crack.
Gem, dog, 6-shooters? What?
Oh, you know what it's like when you go out, when you don't do all 4 on a race car. Mark made the point before that when they're different down one side to the other. You cannot believe the behavioural difference in the car. The load that's in the steering wheel with a warm set down one side and cold down the other. There are times where you think literally your car's broken. It's time to pit. Look at this.
It's still going.
It's a great battle between Tim Slade and Garth Tander. Now, it's the bloke who was the 3-time winner here in 2007, Garth Tander, who gets it done.
And that was for position 23. But of course, there's still 11 cars yet to visit pit lane. So approaching halfway in race 7. Tim Slade here, the third of the Stone Brothers cars, and Whincup still leading the way and still punching mid-58s mark. So the pace is good. They're just going to keep on trucking.
And to that point, his best lap has been a 57.8. His last lap was a 58.6. That's a 3/4 second variation, and we're on the 23rd lap of the race. And he's the only key runner in the mid-58s, and that's important because those around him are now into the low 59s. That tells me that they've got that car very well balanced. We know that over a long period of time, we've seen Team Vodafone do a very good job of managing tyre consistency.
And importantly, the guys that have come in and put tyres on, Will Davison 58.9, Lowndes 58.7, Steve Johnson 58.9. So Jamie Whincup is actually getting away. He's not losing any ground at all to have gone as far as he has, and then he'll put 4 tyres on.
It's interesting little, I mean, it's always good when you've got a car that's working very well, and he's got one of those at the moment for sure. It's no accident, they've worked hard for it, but he's basically, even after people have grabbed tyres, he's still the fastest key guy in the field.
No doubt. He just said to Mark Dutton over the radio, he said, 4 or 2 tyres, Dutto. So, I mean, in terms of strategy, now they can make their own mind up. They've been able to forge a gap. The gap is 12.3 seconds to Shane Van Gisbergen. Dave Reynolds is third. Jason Barkwana, Steve Owen, Greg Murphy, Jonathan Webb, Todd Kelly and Dean Fiore are the only guys who haven't pitted, and they're your top 9 cars.
And the other reason they'll be making their own mind up, all these other guys on this different strategy now are getting close to that window where the time it takes to take 4 tyres on will closely marry up to the time it takes to refill the car with fuel. So we're going to have 2 distinct groups of cars on the track. If you're sitting in your lounge chair and thinking about going anywhere, I wouldn't, because there's going to be a whole bunch of guys on better tyres in 25 laps from now. It'll be red hot.
Just adding to that, Mark, 4 tyres, you'd be stationary for 35 seconds. At the moment, if you go Whincup back to the first guy in the queue who's stopped, it's Will Davison, it's 36.5 seconds. So that'll probably dictate the answer from Mark Dutton's end, but you're going to have to do 2, won't you? Really, if you got it, I mean, it's very close to call at the moment. You could actually drop position here if you go with your 4.
Would you? I'd still take 4, but because you're still going to come out with car speed. He's the fastest guy in the race. He's got 4 fresh tyres. You'd have your money on him at that, wouldn't you? What would you do? You'd take 2, wouldn't you?
I reckon at the moment track position's king, but I you know what? I'm so 50-50 on this one that because you're going to be
how are your splinters?
Because your dad.
Are you sitting on the fence?
Your dad used to say that to me. If you have 4 on, you're definitely going to be stronger at the back end of the race. There's no question about it at all. But I mean, this is what we love about this, is just how tricky it is when you're in the bunker right now and the spotlight's on you. What are you going to do if you're Mark Dutton and Jamie Whincup? They've got a 36-second lead over Davison.
We're halfway through race 7 at Barbagallo, and Craig Lowndes is on a mission. He's down the inside of Will Davison at turn 7. He was in deep there, but he managed to pull it up.
Good job there, mate. 25 to go. Need to drive it straight regardless of those tyres.
That moves him to, well, it moves him now to 7th because there's 6 cars yet to pit. And of course the leader remains Jamie Whincup. He leads the way by 19 seconds over Jason Bargwanna, but importantly the gap back to Lowndes is 37.5.
Yeah, so which is as that number starts to drift closer. This is Van Gisbergen. There's a reason Scafie's laughing here. Whoa, this is a wild arrival into the lane. He got it done eventually. It just goes to show you how knife edge it is. Mother Energy drink here, Jonathan Webb. Good battle with Todd Kelly through turns 2 and 3. Oh, he's in the marbles up there, Jonathan. You can see all that black Dunlop rubber sitting up on the top of the road. The closer that number gets to 40 seconds between Whincup and Lowndes, the more likely you are to go with the Scaife. We'll call it the Scaife strategy today. Because we never exactly know what's going on in the engineering bunkers anyway. It's best guess with a lot of information, but it's what makes it a really delightful battle to consider. This is turn 1. On the days where the car lacks grip and you're having a bit of a balance drama, it feels like the longest corner in the universe.
Doesn't it? Very true. This guy's driven well. Davison's driven very well. The car was oversteery from the start. And when they hurt the tyre early, then you are impacted for the whole day. Craig Lowndes has come from behind, good pass, and has motored away. Probably got 7 or 8 car lengths gap over Will already, and in behind Will Davison is Steve Johnson. Steve only put 2 tyres in the rear, so did Will Davison, so did Craig Lowndes. And as we get closer to the point where Jamie Whincup has to come in, we'll then determine, based on that gap, it's 37 seconds as we speak, back to Craig Lowndes.
See in the background too, Carl Reidler from the pit stop shuffle did come out in front of Rick Kelly, so he's picked up another spot, which is effectively pretty much 5th, of course, when Whincup makes his pit. Speak of the devil, here he is, Whincup in the end of lap 28.
Got 4 tyres, full fuel.
That answers the question.
So, your tyres are going to be the factor here. Going to give her a bit of a tweak as well with the rear roll centre. Can I have any neutral in the box, please? Nice and steady in the box.
And what they'll do, because they want car speed, they'll lift the rear roll centre slightly to sharpen the car up.
Rear's done, so first gear, fuel's all done. Good to go once we drop you. Good to go. Great.
Beautiful stop. Beautiful stop. 12.4 seconds. And there's your teammate.
Well, he's now in the box seat. He's got track position and he's got 4 tyres. You were right. And it's going to be very difficult for them now to climb over this guy who's been a multiple winner this year, but he hasn't been able to grab hold of the championship in the early part of the season as we've seen him do in the past with the way things have unfolded so far this year. But one of the things that I'm beginning to note as a characteristic trait of Jamie's is that when he has a shocker, he bounces back with an outstanding response. So remember, his shootout lap in New Zealand was as good as you'll see on a wet track, and then it all fell apart in the race, and it was great work. So he's gone away, had to think about it, come back, tidied up. Look at the crush on that front left tyre.
Yeah.
Unbelievable distortion. And he's come back and he's responded like a true champion. So let's just sit back and enjoy this. It's a pretty short, sharp ride around here, but it's still fascinating to observe.
Thank you. Look good, eyes forward, mate. Those tyres will be coming up real good soon.
found myself really transfixed looking at that front left tyre then. And the reason, Mark, that I reckon it's fascinating is, did you see the amount of what we describe as tyre pickup on that front left when he makes the transition up the hill, across the crown of 3 where it's rubbery, through 4 and then up over the top of the hill? It's so grubby.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, and then it cleans itself up on the run down to turn 6. So really interesting to see that. The tyre wasn't fully up to temp.
Lively battle here. Alex Davison is 12th. Caruso, Holdsworth, Tander, remember, is trying to claw his way out of that 23rd grid position. He's got to 15th, but he's still got Tim Slade. They've had a ripper race right behind him. Then it's Fabian Coulthard, who started way down the back. Dunbrell next, then Owen and Ingle. That's the top 20.
So Kyle Reindler, for me, will be 5th when Greg Murphy makes his stop right now, meaning that Whincup will be cleansed to the proper lead of the race from Lowndes, Davison, Johnson, and then Reindler. Kyle Reindler would, for me, be best on ground, because that is a really good drive.
3 votes.
And, I mean, seriously, in this field, and as close and as hard as this competition is, to be in the top 5 any day of the week is very good. And there's Tander putting a lot of pressure on Caruso. Sorry, is he on the Holdsworth? Maybe it's Holdsworth. But it was very close. I thought they were going to make contact in the middle of turn 1. We saw Winterbottom give Alex Davison a rub in the middle of turn 1, and it upsets the car so easily. Yes, so it's Holdsworth, sorry, that Tander needs to be able to make the move on.
Garth's job's been a pretty tough one so far. He has made the most of it. He's just absolutely locked in combat with Tim Slade in this race. They'll be sick of each other at the end of the 120 kilometres. Tander has made genuine ground after the horrific qualifying, but now you can see the task he's got. He's in and around cars of equal performance.
Yeah.
He's down in 14th, and no matter how hard he tries, I mean, even if he does an outstanding job, I'd say that the best he could hope for at the moment would be to be behind his teammate James Courtney, which make him 11th. It just goes to underscore the value and importance of getting those good laps together in qualifying.
And here's the car we spoke of, Carl Reindler, fair income sheds Commodore. It's run from the Brad Jones Racing team in Albury under the REC, the Racing Entitlements contract that's owned by his teammate Jason Bright. So the 3-car operation from Albury having a pretty good day. Jason Bright's a couple of spots back in 7th, but Carl's done a lot of overseas racing, Australian Formula 3 champ, spent some time in the British Formula 3 Championship as well, and in his 2nd full year as a main game driver.
Mark and I saw the co-owner of the team, Kim Jones, in the paddock between qualifying and the race. We reckon he's a fair weather sailor. They've got 3 different cars, 3 different sets of colours, and it was noted by both of us that Kim was suddenly wearing the Fair Dinkum Sheds shirt.
So whichever car's furthest up is the colour that he's got on, exactly.
Right under a bit of pressure here from his old teammate Winterbottom. This is 7th and 8th place.
This will be a healthy battle, actually, Aaron, because Rick Kelly, Jason Bright and Mark Winterbottom are very, very close in terms of the lap times that they've been doing over the last 4 or 5 laps. And Jason Bright's always been pretty competitive here. As I said before, they achieved their speed quite differently, and Winterbottom, you can see there, driving off turn 6 very straight. And in the closing laps of this race, that'll serve him well in terms of rear tyre life. Ranging up behind him, you just see in the back of shot, is Shane van Gisbergen.
Now, folks, we're talking a lot about tyres and tyre grip, and I showed you a bit about the surface at the start of the telecast. Now, let me just show you the other compounding issue here. This is Greg Murphy's tyre. It's just come off his car right now. I did the temperature on it. It was 105 degrees centigrade. But if you look close, look at all that sand that's stuck to it. So that's trying to get across the surface at that sort of temperature with the sand on there, just on top of everything else, makes the day here really, really tough.
I'm just looking at those people that we typically describe as contenders and their relative positions in this road. Guys like Courtney and Tander and Bright and Lowndes, and they all stopped in that lap 12-13 window, which means they've got to do 37, 38 laps to get home, and they took on 2 tyres. Now, by contrast, Jamie Whincup's strategy, lead of the race, he's got margin to burn at the moment over his teammate. He's got 4 tyres on. He changed them on lap 28. On board looking here at 3 wide. 3 wide from Russell Ingall's viewpoint. How's this for a battle? James Moffat's next on the right-hand side. I can't figure out who's down the inside. It's pretty wild. I think it might be Bargwana.
Yeah, it is, I think. Yeah. Stand back, because this will be on. Oh! Contact down the pitch straight between Moffat and Ingall. And then Ingall dived across in front of Moffat. I would have loved to have seen where Moffat put the car then, because there was no way there was room for Ingall to get across. So, whew, that was a big moment.
And that was all for 20th place.
The point that I was going to make about the guys that grabbed 2 tyres and did it early, boy, are they in for a long, slow run to lap 50 now. So right now, you're sitting in the cockpit of those cars where you've got 2 tyres on it, and it's greasy, almost like wet conditions in the way that you've got to treat the steering inputs, the throttle and the brake.
Campbell Little to the left there, engineer for Winterbottom. Grant McPherson to the right. Will Davison's engineer. Bright and Rick Kelly here. And Van Gisbergen making a lunge on Winterbottom while that's all happening. Remember that he pitted lap 25, Winterbottom lap 15.
And you can see Bright, we already said about Reindler's car being good and doing a very good job, but Bright clearly has good consistency also. He set Rick Kelly up, he drove out of turn 6 very straight, got himself in contention to pass, and Van Gisbergen also looks pretty racy. Now, there's 2 great spots. If you can get yourself close enough that the change of direction at the top of the hill, here's this 3 abreast action. That's Bargwana down the inside of Moffat, who's down the inside of Ingall. and then as they come out of here, there's a little move by Russell. James goes to cover him. He gets a bump. He's going to fire him in the paddock, and then he gets across the front. So James, I mean, a couple of those little lessons with Russell, you've been there and done that. Neil, that's not healthy, is it? No.
Russell was just giving James a lesson about blocking on the run to turn 1.
Yeah, don't do it. Van Gisbergen here picks off Rick Kelly to take 7th.
Okay, mate, this P7, you're up to Brody for P6.
A bit more blocking to turn 1, but Rick can't get into the gap.
And Rick, in this battle, has gone anyway, because we've already seen in the previous lap how much ground Van Gisbergen was able to make. So he'll be now looking pretty intently in that rear vision mirror, easy for me to say, of Mark Winterbottom. And as I said before, if you can do a good job off this turn 5 complex and the change of direction, you can actually get down the inside into turn 6. Winterbottom a little bit too far back, but this will be the setup. So you've got to get yourself square and have the throttle on, and you can see there Winterbottom better drive out of turn 6 than Rick Kelly, but I don't think he's close enough. Back to this healthy battle here. That's Steve Owen down the inside of Paul Dunbrell, runs him wide, way out into the marbles. And there's sand and bits of rubber and stuff, so Paul was battling to stay on the road as Moffat goes up the inside, following Russell Ingall.
Oh, Moffat and Coulthard.
And Dave Reynolds. There's contact there for sure, and there's Murph, teammates.
Lucky the track's not wider, because they'd be 6 wide on the run to turn 1.
Plenty of racing in the mid-pack here. Murphy now back down the inside of his Kiwi countryman Fabian Coulthard, but it's Whincup and Lowndes. They lead the way 1-2 with 12 laps to run. Race 7 of the championship. More from the west in a sec. It is on at Barbagallo Raceway, and James Moffat is feeling the pressure. David Reynolds is right with him, and Neil, that was close.
Yeah, and he's going to, James going to have to be careful here, because that was too aggressive. When you're on the wrong side of the exit curve at the top of the hill, and you jink to the right on going down the old straight down to turn 6, that will raise eyebrows, not only in the cockpits around him, but in race control. Thomas Mazira has said in driver's briefing this morning, if you block consistently, I will do you, was the way he described it.
Alex Davis has lost a few spots there. He's been muscled back.
I'm a big fan of James, but he's just got to drive in straighter lines.
He runs 21st, remember, qualified 9th, but made a slow getaway and has been back in the pack. But Whincup leads. The margin's 1.5 seconds to Lowndes. Will Davison hanging on in 3rd from Stephen Johnson, then Reindler, Van Gisbergen, Jason Bright, Rick Kelly, Winterbottom and Courtney. That's the top 10 as Jim Beam Racing team boss Dick Johnson looks on a winner here in the West back in the day. 1988 in the Sierra days. And his team's been on the podium here more times than any other team, bar the Holden Racing team.
He was always very good here, Dick Johnson. He got some great results over a long period of time. We just saw Garth Tander has also been able to climb past Lee Holdsworth from that previous battle that we saw. And we're also seeing Shane Van Gisbergen, who's made some ground to get by Jason Bright. So Whincup, Lowndes, Davison, Johnson, Reindler, Van Gisbergen, Bright, Kelly, Winterbottom and Courtney are your top 10. Neil Crompton said before that Garth could probably only expect to come from 23rd to get to 10th or 11th. He's got one more guy in Michael Caruso to get to the back of his teammate, James Courtney. James Courtney, interestingly, has never done a very good job here, has he? He's never been able to look after the tyre. It's never suited his driving style as Van Gisbergen gets down the inside.
Good job.
Carl Reindler.
That's for 5th. Yeah, James has been here 4 times.
The next car after is Johnson.
Hey, Scapey, it's an interesting observation you say about Dick Johnson doing well here and Stephen, and the fact that Craig Lowndes has such an excellent record here. It tells you volumes. Well, hang on, in the sand trap.
Yeah, it's Dunbrell, Larko. He and James Moffat get together down at turn 7. And can the Bottle 04 escape? Oh, no, he's bogged. He's bogged and not going anywhere.
This will bring the safety car out for sure. Just tried reverse gear, couldn't make it move. And now he's just turned it off. So they bumped wheel to wheel. Sorry, Larko, but he bumped wheel to wheel with James Moffat as they turned into the final corner. And couldn't quite make it. He only needed to get to that little grass bit. You could see it in the top right-hand corner of your screen. He just needed to get to that. So just have a look here. That was James Moffat, and it's actually James having a big dive. And as he goes to turn it in, they hit wheel to wheel. Quite a lot of force there. And Paul Dunbrell down through the sand trap. So we said there was a pretty lively battle going on there with Dave Reynolds and Greg Murphy and James Moffat and Paul Dunbrell, and the result of the whole thing is Paul parked in the sand trap at the final corner.
By one.
Sorry, Darren, he's a long way back in the sand trap, so maybe Tim Schenkens thought, well, look, there's only 7 laps to go. It would be a remote possibility in terms of getting to that spot. So in terms of safety, he may have made the decision to leave it alone and not put the safety car out. There's Dean Fiore around the back of the sand trap at turn 1, and he'll emerge back out at turn 2.
And we've just heard 2 from race control that they will leave the Dunbrell car there. They're happy with it where it is located in the sand trap. So 7 to go. Whincup leads by 1.6 seconds to Lowndes. Davison 3rd, Johnson 4th, but Van Gisbergen is a man moving through. He's made it to 5th.
And a good effort from Craig Lowndes. He did 59.03 for Whincup, 59.12 for Craig Lowndes in the last lap. So considering the difference in their tyre life, Craig Lowndes is driving the car very well.
Oh, back Todd Kelly off turn 7. And Murphy lunging Slade, and Steve Owen trying to sneak in the gap there.
Now this could be ugly over here. If you make contact through the S's, no, you've got enough of a gap for car position to move across on Slade. So Slade's gone backwards in this race. He was battling with Tander, and Slade now is 7 positions back. So this is a very healthy pack, led by Alex Davison. On board now with James Moffat, and down the inside is a big dive at Slade. Oh. And you can see there's contact between Ingle and Alex Davison. Ingle gets it done.
So what you've got here is a bit of a mixture of guys who stopped early and who stopped in the middle of the race, and you're seeing that crossover lap over where some are a bit faster, some are hanging on and just trying to get home, and that's where we're getting some of this drama from.
Where James needs to be careful is when he moves it back, what Neil was talking about before, when you move over in the straight and you move it back in the braking area, you've got to give the guy behind racing room. And he didn't really give Tim Slade enough room in the braking area there for Tim to basically have sufficient width to the edge of the road.
And that's what happened to him when I made the remark about him being on the wrong side of the curb at turn 5. And then he went from off the curb on the left side at turn 5 and went hard to the right on the run down to the hill to turn 6. And that stuff, what tends to happen in the field, there's 2 things that are equalisers. One is stewards and race control. The other thing is just a little bit of push and shove goes on out there between the brothers. And a lot of things get solved quietly behind the scenes. So, and I mean, there's no disrespect to James. He's new in the big game. He's trying to make his mark. He also can't afford to be too soft because he'll just get beaten up all the time. You've got to find the happy medium between keeping your elbows high but making big direction changes, and especially the second move, and that's the one. It's the second move that can cause problems.
Winterbottom here, all over the back of Rick Kelly in the fight for 8th. And this is Alex Davison we're looking at. Moffat making a lunge at 1.
Yep, he's got it done. He'll have a little bump. There's a little bump. But when you get down the inside, the grip level at turn 1 is so low that you've got track position. You don't want to be on the outside. Neil made the comment at the start of the race. There's nothing worse than being on the outside of turn 1. And Moffat gets another position. So he's to 18th. And there we go. That was a funny place to have a lose there. I couldn't really pick whether there was a bump or not. Todd Kelly. And we see the Greg Murphy, Steve Owen pass on Tim Slade.
Whincup and Lowndes are still basically circulating in the same pace. 59.3 for Jamie, 59.4 for Craig. Stevie Johnson's actually the fastest on that last lap of the top half dozen or so cars, but only by a 10th. But they're comfortable. But if you consider that there may not be a battle between Whincup and Lowndes, and then look at what the margin is back to Will Davison next in the queue, it's about 7 seconds.
So look how accurately, and just take real note of the engine and the throttle modulation. Have a listen for how much throttle. Can't get it on now. He's only flat now.
Yeah, the very last little bit before he grabs 4th gear.
So to be more than 100 metres from the corner, in 4th gear, the cars will still wheel spin. So although you might be looking and saying these blokes aren't trying that hard, they are right on the cusp of going off the road every lap with how much the tyre has deteriorated over this period of time. And I used to always say at this track, at this time of the race, it's like driving in the wet. The grip level is so low, it's about 3 seconds slower than they qualified at, and you have to be so precise and drive the car more like 9/10ths. We pick up Paul Dunbrell getting back to the pits. He'll be unhappy with the goings on at the end of the main straight. On board with Mark Winterbottom. A bit of a slide there for Kelly. May have opened the door into turn 6. He just puts the nose down there, but he can't get it done. The grip level's so low, very easy to go off the road. Much straighter exit there for Mark Winterbottom. He might be in contention down here at the end of the main straight this time. Oh, Rick just slightly moved it over. That little move. It's only half a car width.
And that's the subtle semi-block that you do when you've done a lot of V8 supercar mileage. That one wasn't, though. that was much more of a dive.
And Courtney just behind, taking a bit of time away while they're having this rumble. Couple of taps there.
Yep. Rick's in strife.
He's hanging on.
Tim Schenken is going to give car 15, the race director is going to give car 15 a bad sportsmanship flag for blocking next lap.
Thank you, Damien.
Here we go. This will be the spot.
Now Thomas will have been happy with what Rick did into 7, but what he saw into 1, which is what we remarked on, he would not have been happy with. When you basically jump to the inside of the road, that's what they're not into.
And Rick was pretty vocal back on the radio when he was told that.
So 1 to go, and Whincup and Lowndes lead the way. This is where the fight is. It's for 8th place between Kelly and Winterbottom, and Courtney's right with him, and Frosty's getting frustrated here. That's Adam Hardy, engineer for Rick Kelly. But Winterbottom's in the gap.
See, I don't agree with that. When you get close to the end of the race there, the last 3 or 4 laps of the race, you should be able to move it over at that stage. I mean, this is not gentleman racing.
No. I think you should be permitted the 1 move.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
1 move, that's what the rules say.
But if you run the car down the inside line all the time, Neil, they'll get you anyway.
Yeah.
So, Team Vodafone, 1-2 to the bottom of the hill. They dominated last time we were in Western Australia 2 years ago. Today, it's a 1-2. Whincup will get another win. Lowndes is a loon. And Whincup rolls them in the west.
He was very close. Closer than anybody will ever know to rotating that car at the last corner.
It certainly was.
So Roland Dane's here this weekend, and they get to the front. They get both cars on the podium. Will Davison is third for Ford Performance Racing, and Van Gisbergen managed to get by Stephen Johnson to get his way to fourth at the end. But Jamie Whincup too fast. The pole sitter picks up another race win and extends the margin in the V8 Supercars Championship. Of course, the game changes tomorrow. 2 more races, soft tyres, but he was too good today.
Well, they did a really good job, and I was very impressed with Lowndes' drive, Aaron. When you've come in so much earlier and you've got to make the tyres live, he drove very, very well. We already said about how good he is here, and it really showed in terms of conserving the left-hand rear tyre. Great job by those guys, and a big slide this. Have a look at this. This is the last corner of this motor race, and Craig Lowndes right out sideways, and as Neil said, it was so close to being thrown away. Have a look.
Initially it fell down the ramp on the backside of the curb, and I reckon, you know, he's celebrating. Hey, this is good. Look at me. Wave to the crowd. Whoops, there might be a little bit more opposite lock required than first thought. So, I mean, I know his standard response here will be, no, it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. But the truth is, when he shaves tomorrow morning, he'll know.
So 1, 2, 3 to assemble in front of the podium. Remember, of course, with the 3-race format, it's 100 points for the race win. So less points per race, but obviously the same amount over the course of the weekend. And Will Davison gets his first podium for FPR. Whincup wins his 45th career race and extends the margin in the championship. Very happy hunting ground, Barbagallo, for this team in recent years. And they went for many years without a win here. They didn't have some success for a while, but the floodgates have opened now.
Great reaction from the teammates. They know how hard they've driven those cars, and they know that there was nothing left for either of them as they extracted every last bit of performance from those tyres. And a really good performance from Whincup and Lowndes. Great performance also for Will Davison. Very consistent. Adrian Burgess and the rest of the team congratulating Jamie Whincup.
And it wasn't just a 1-2 for the race. It moves Lowndes to second in the championship as well. So it is a really good day for Team Vodafone. And if that was anything to go by, the 2 races tomorrow should be really, really good.
The soft tyre will serve them well.
Well, the Team Vodafone boys are right here with me. Jamie Whincup, congratulations. As they said on the radio, that was an A-grade drive today. Well done.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. The car really hooked up this morning in quali, and couldn't be happier. Perfect day here in Perth. Everyone's come out. It's a great feeling.
And just when they were creeping up on you in the championship, you just widened the gap a little bit more.
Yeah, you know, we let everything slip at New Zealand. So we worked pretty hard. We gave ourselves a bit of a kick up the bum. We've come back strong. So very, very happy. Very proud of the team. We've done a good job.
A nice team result too.
Yeah, 1-2. Lowndes was coming at me hard then. His car must have been a bit better on the tyres, which is unlike Lowndes. He's normally sliding it around. So it was on, but we'll make a tweak for tomorrow and see if we're a bit stronger at the end.
Nice way to go into tomorrow's races.
Yeah, tomorrow's soft tyre now, so completely different scenario. We may as well forget about today, come back tomorrow and see if we can keep the same result.
Well done, Jamie. Congratulations.
No, thanks. Thanks, Brett.
We'll find Craig Lowndes just over here with his car. Lowndesy, congratulations. Great result. Now, just tell us about that final turn.
Yeah, look, Barrett, it was quite nice to finally come back. We had a poor start, but the car was working sensationally. I love this place. It's a good flowing circuit. Of course, the tyres wear out quite a lot, but yeah, a little bit of fun in the end there.
Good stuff. Great team result, Lowndesy, too, and great for your championship standings as well.
Well, it is, Barrett, and you know, New Zealand has been a hoodoo for me, and we managed to rectify that. We've come here and obviously had a 1-2. We've got still 2 more races to go, so we can't get ahead of ourselves, but it is a great way to start.
Lowndesy, how do you feel about going onto the soft tyre tomorrow on this circuit?
Yeah, good luck. I think it's going to be interesting. We've run it here before, so we sort of got a bit of an understanding of what's all about. But really, we'll see. Look, the weather is beautiful here, but look, we'll see what tomorrow brings. Just got to say hello to Levi and Chili at home. But look, it's just it's a great day, and the crowd's fantastic, and it's nice to be back.
Good on you, Lowndesy. Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, and Will Davison, of course, tremendous result. His first podium for Ford Performance Racing. Will, nice to get that one out of the way.
It is, Brett. It's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. So, been like a year and a half since I've got a podium, can you believe it? Through the pains of last year, and you know, we've been going strong this year and we've been knocking on the door of the podium, and I've just been saying all along I'd love to get my first podium at the Trading Post Challenge, so a lot of orange out there, so I'm pretty happy for myself, for everyone at FPR and all the Trading Post people that have been so supportive in my transition. I'm loving my time here at the new team, and I think this is first of many.
Start of a big year to come?
Oh, I think so. I really think so. Ever since I drove this car, you know, I've been quite quick. So obviously we couldn't match the two orange cars there, but you know, we're looking good. Every race this year we've been in contention. So I'm just so excited to come to every race meeting, and I'm just really loving my racing. So you know, I think we're gonna grow as the year goes on.
So will you sleep well tonight? Come back raring to go tomorrow?
I won't lie, it is the best third place I've ever had. You know, I was getting used to seconds and thirds in 2009, but a year and a half since I've had a podium. So yeah, I'll enjoy this tonight, and the pressure's off a little bit now, and hopefully we can get plenty more maybe tomorrow.
I know your family will be wrapped. Well, congratulations, well done.
I appreciate it, thanks mate. Cheers.
And it moves him up in the championship now to position 4. A good drive too. Shane van Gisbergen dragged his way from 16th to 4th at the end. Stephen Johnson was a factor all day. Jason Bright and Carl Ryan, the great job from the West Aussie. The reigning champ James Courtney finished in 10th place. Jason Bargwana got to 11th from 21st on the grid. Garth Tander managed to get through to 13th. James Moffat was in all sorts of action, but did get to 18th place in the end. And of course, we saw Paul Dunbrell, the Bottle-O Ford, a retirement. When we come back, we'll check out the championship points and how it all sits to wrap up a big day from the West.